What's cracking, ladies and gentlemen? 49 coming at you another community shoutcast for the Aspect of Gaming Dota 2 Community Crackdown 2. We're loading into game number 1 of the Bracket D Best of 1 series between Plantronics and V up against the road to 3K. And so we've got the first ban Doombringer coming out from Plantronics, as well as the first ban Lycanthrope. So fairly standard bans coming out so far from both teams. Doombringer you ban out because he provides such a huge amount of utility over in that offlane, especially over on the Radiant side, since the Radiant offlane is significantly easier than the Dire offlane due to the easy access to the jungle, especially as a Doombringer. We've got a Razor as a second ban coming out from Plantronics, and a Batrider second ban coming out from Road to 3K. Batrider usually isn't banned out in the first banning stage in the current meta compared to how often he used to be banned. Back in TI3, 100% pickle ban rate. Batrider now with the nerf to sticky napalms, it only provides half the amount of bonus damage it used to against non-hero units. No longer that first pick priority, but it's a lot easier to be able to shut him down in lane, and if you are able to shut him down, it's difficult for the Batrider to recover because Skywrath Mage and the Shadow Shaman combination coming from Plantronics, and this is a very powerful yet very greedy support duo. The biggest advantage of this duo is you've got Skywrath Mage set up for the Shadow Shaman. You can concussive shot from range, 1,600 range, you can't disjoint it, 40% stat. So you have Skywrath Mage set up with concussive shot from Fog of War. Shadow Shaman then runs in, so you'll probably be selling your boots first, catch them out the shackle, and then you've got a very easy first blood, because you've got Skywrath Mage provides the setup, Shadow Shaman then provide the lockdown, and then Skywrath Mage provides a massive amount of damage. These are the two most powerful support heroes in the current metagame. The rationale behind it is because Skywrath Mage, because he deals such a massive amount of damage at all stages of the game, provides a huge amount of utility with the concussive shot and the Ancient Seal, he's always going to be relevant. It's very difficult to deal with the Skywrath Mage, especially because if he catches out another support, he can kill them. If you use him in conjunction with other heroes to be able to quickly burst targets down in the beginning of a fight using that Mystic Flare, gives you a massive advantage. And Skywrath Mage, he has a damage potential of a core hero. And so we've got the Faceless Void first pick coming out from the road to 3K MMR. And very unusual, we've actually got a Vengeful Spirit being picked up. I don't think I've seen Vengeful Spirit picked up in a very long time. She has been buffed recently, and so the Vengeance Aura now applies a negative or a debuff to her killer. So it does provide her a little bit more utility, so it's the reason why Vengeful Spirit, especially in the competitive scene, because she's not going to be picking up as many levels as if she was running in the pub game and the dual lane. You do see her tend to opt to max out the Vengeance Aura a lot earlier on now, especially with the current Death Ball meta. And so the rationale behind both the Skywrath Mage and the Shadow Shaman is if Faceless Void doesn't catch both these heroes out, Shadow Shaman can drop his Mass Serpent wards and actually threaten the Faceless Void inside his own Chronosphere. And so when you see a Void being drafted, you have to kind of pick up contingencies to the Void, because otherwise it becomes very difficult to deal with the Void. Since as an offlane hero, he is entirely dependent on finding these kills. He's not going to be able to find much farm unless he's in a 1v1 offlane position, so if your team happens to be clashing try. And in that case, Faceless Void does do very well in that 3-position role in that solo offlane, because he has such high base damage that he could simply beat the other mid hero down, the other offlane hero down. I'm just going to quickly change my settings real quick, bear with me. And so Faceless Void, however, if he's left in the 1v3 offlane situation, he actually has to be very careful, because Skywrath Mage can catch him with the Ancient Seal, prevent him from getting a time walk out, and Shadow Shaman can lock him down. We've got a Tinker as well as an Outlaw Destroy ban coming up from Plantronics, and a Clockwork as well as a Viper ban. And so they're banning out very powerful offlaners, because they don't want to deal with the power spike coming in from the Clockwork to be able to help set up these kills, because the advantage of the Clockwork Goblins, again, is very slow, and supports like the Vengeful Spirit, they don't have too much control. The Vengeful Spirit does have the Magic Missile, but if Clockwork is able to catch her out of position and trap her in with the Cogs, or simply start hitting with the Battery Assault, very difficult for the Venge to really be able to deal with her. She doesn't want to really expand the Magic Missile unless she absolutely has to, since the biggest drawback of the Vengeful Spirit is Magic Missile is a very short range, 500 range for that Magic Missile, and she's got about 290 movement speed. And so you need a setup here to synergize well with the Venge. Otherwise, if you don't have that setup, it's difficult for her to be able to get in position. I've got Brewmaster picked up in the second picking stage. It's a bit unusual that he was able to be slip past the initial stage, but I guess Plantronics, they wanted that Skywrath Shadow Shaman combo, and so the reason why they wanted Shadow Shaman is to synergize with the Brewmaster. Brewmaster, for the first 35 minutes, if you're able to get a timely Arcane Blink, he will win you every single team fight decisively. Of course, the drawback with the Brewmaster is after those 35 minutes are up, he starts to plateau, he hits a wall where his Brewlings no longer are effective because enemy cores have BKBs, or because they can simply stand their ground and kill your Brewlings before you could really create too much ruckus. And so Brewmaster, he's a very timing-specific hero, and when you pick a timing-specific hero, you want to draft supports that can help you push very quickly. So Shadow Shaman works very well. Every single time you win a fight and Shadow Shaman's still alive, you drop Mass Serpent once you take a tower, or you can actually hold on to your Mass Serpent once, take the first tower, and then drop them to threaten that tier 2. So Shadow Shaman provides you a massive amount of utility at all stages of the game. Of course, the inherent weakness of the Shadow Shaman is because he's very slow, very squishy, and incredibly mana as well as experience dependent. You ideally want to hit level 7 and have Arcane Boots up on Shadow Shaman ASAP, otherwise he really does start to taper off. If you're not able to play from ahead of Shadow Shaman, he really loses a huge amount of his impact, because with the Chronosphere and with the Vengeful swap, it's difficult for Shadow Shaman to be able to stay alive in that first salvo of spells when both teams initiate. So Faceless Void, all he really has to do is try to catch out the Shadow Shaman or the Skywrath Mage, and they can instantly pop from the start of these fights. But of course, the drawback to that is if you don't catch out the Brewmaster, he acts as another contingency to the Faceless Void. Since if you're not able to catch him out, he'll either be able to haze you, or he could actually split cycling you up before you get your BKB. Since as an offlane Faceless Void, you're not going to be having that BKB for a very long time. And we've got an Invoker pickup coming in from Plantronics, and so judging by the fact that they have a Brewmaster, most likely going to be a Brewmaster mid and an Invoker in as a safe lane position. When Invoker is picked up in the competitive scene, you never see cross Wex Invoker anymore because it doesn't have enough lane control, and that's where Invoker's at his weakest, especially in the early stage of the game, since the biggest weakness with Invoker is he's incredibly golden experience dependent. So Plantronics, they've got two very greedy picks. They've got the greedy support duo with Skywrath Shadow Shaman, and they've also got the Invoker. Invoker in a safe lane, if he runs cross Exort, provides you a massive amount of killing power, since you're guaranteed to find him farm, and you're guaranteed to be able to find him levels as a result of that, because Invoker most likely will be rushing for the Hand of Midas, especially if he's a tri-lane farmer. And the advantage of Invoker as a safe lane farmer is once he gets a few points up that Exalt, 2 to 3 points, the supports can rotate and leave him alone against their offlaner. He'll have enough base damage to be able to threaten the Void, as well as to be able to CS quite effectively. We've got the Tidehunter ban coming up from Plantronics, and so a lot of offlane bans coming up from both teams, and the Tidehunter, exceptionally powerful offlane hero, is actually the most powerful offlane hero in the current metagame, because of how difficult it is to dislodge him, as well as how rapidly he's able to recover. Tidehunter, especially over on the Radiant offlane, where he has easy access to the dire hard camp to pull through, as well as the fact that the creep Equilibrium will naturally be able to push closer towards his tower, so he'll be able to find a fair amount of free experience. And if you are, for whatever reason, able to zone him out, he could always stack and clear out Ancients. And so Tidehunter always has that comeback mechanic, and so the reason why he's so powerful is he fits all the criteria of an offlane hero. He's difficult to kill, he's able to always stay in EXP range, he's got a way to threaten the enemy carry, all the enemy supports, and to top that all off, he has a power spike at level 6, and for whatever reason, if he happens to fall behind, he can always find his recovery farm. So we've got a Weaver ban coming out from Roth 3k MMR. That makes a huge amount of sense. You never want to give away a Weaver when you've got a soft support duo. And so I mean a soft support duo because you've got the Venge and the Treant Protector. Venge is the only one that can lock down Weaver, and even then, once the Linking Sphere comes online, Venge can't do anything to the Weaver. And so Weaver can actually even wait out the Magic Missile and Sakuchi to disjoin it, or Sakuchi out the Magic Missile, and once that Magic Missile's down, Vengeful Spirit can't do anything to the Weaver, so Weaver can go ham, run through the Venge and cut her down. Same thing with the Treant Protector. He offers you no real control over the Weaver. He can use the Overgrowth, but Weaver's probably going to be very quick with the finger with the time lapse. We've got a Death Prophet pickup, and so while Invoker can potentially go mid, and we could be seeing a tri-lane Brewmaster or an off-lane Brewmaster, not going to be the greatest matchup. Cross Exile Invoker v Death Prophet does well once Invoker's able to find a few levels, but Death Prophet should be able to shut Invoker down hard. So unless they're exceptionally confident in their Invoker player to be able to go mid and contest against the Death Prophet, most likely going to be Invoker in the safe lane, unless we could actually also even see offlane Invoker. You can do it from time to time. If you start with Boots first and maybe even start with a point and Wex, you have enough movement speed with the safety ward that you should be able to maneuver yourself out of position from the supports rotating in. And so Invoker and Brewmaster have a huge amount of flexibility, Brewmaster as well, but of course you don't ideally want to run these heroes in the offlane, because you're placing so much pressure on them to be able to win you these fights, especially with the Death Ball lineup that you have. Brewmaster, you have to get a 10 to 12 minute Arcane Blink in order for him to be relevant in this game. If he ever gets shut down, or if he isn't able to find a very timely Blink, Faceless Void should be able to catch him out every single fight with the Chronosphere. And Brewmaster, every fight you're not able to clap split, you're going to lose that fight, because your team is so heavily reliant on the CC control you provide with that Primal Split, that if you don't have it, it's going to be very difficult, especially with the Death Prophet, who runs at you with the Exorcism. Every time Exorcism pops, unless you're able to bring her down very quickly, you want to break and disengage from that fight, because the Death Prophet will eventually be the DPS you down. Every 4 seconds you're eating a Crypt Swarm. You've got the Exorcism Spirits that do a hell of a lot of damage on their own, especially when you've got squishy supports like the Skywrath Mage and the Shadow Shaman. And the biggest weakness of that greedy support duo is they've got 0 armor. Shadow Shaman, I believe, has 1 armor at level 1, so he'll probably be having about 2 armor at about level 7, 2 to 3 armor. Skywrath Mage, 0 armor at level 1. So if he ever gets called out, the advantage of Skywrath Mage is he's very fast, he's got a huge engagement range, but if he ever is called out with a Vengeful swap, he's going to pop very quickly. We've got a Slark pickup as the 5th pick. Slark, you usually don't want to pick him up when Ancient Apparition and Bloodseeker are in the pool, because these are heroes that hard counter him. But in this game, so far, he's going to do okay. He does have to worry about the Grave Shield, and he also has to worry about the Overgrowth, coming out from the Treant Protector's ways to control him, but he's got the Dark Pact to be able to ensure that it'll be very difficult to be able to lock him down. Faceless Void does very well against Slark as well, because you could catch him out in the Chronosphere and kill him in the Chronosphere before he's able to pop that Shadow down, and every single time Slark isn't able to Shadow down successfully, he's going to die very quickly. He's entirely reliant on that Shadow down for survivability in the lane. And so it looks like we've got a 5th pick coming up from Road to 3K MMR. Will be interesting to see what hero they decide to pick up. Since with that Death Prophet pickup, most likely going to be the Faceless Void over in the off lane, and Clinkz. So we're going to be seeing what looks like a safe lane Clinkz, with the Vengeful Spirit as well as the Treant Protectors. The objective of Clinkz is to get a fast Orchid ASAP. They've got 3 very critical Orchid targets. You've got the Brewmaster, the Invoker, and the Slark. Ideally, you want to be Orchiding that Brewmaster, since if you're able to get your Orchid around the same time he gets his Arcane Blink up, when he blinks into Clap Split, you Orchid him. Orchid got 0 cast point, and Clinkz has got a reasonably fast turn rate. So his sole objective is to catch out the Brewmaster, prevent him from being able to split, and when he blinks in like that, he doesn't know. So when you've got that Orchid up and the enemy team isn't aware, you've got that initial timing advantage, because the enemy team is completely taken off guard. And so if you're able to Orchid him in that first fight, you can decisively win that fight and then take towers, because you've got the Exorcism coming out from the Death Prophet, and you've got the split pushing / pushing presence coming out from the Clinkz, with the Searing Arrow which works on towers as well as the Strafe. Very difficult to be able to deal with. So I'm just going to quickly fiddle with the stream overlay. Ooh. There we go. I think everything is good to go. And so going to introduce the players over on both teams. Over for Plantronics NV, we've got Firetoad, going to be what looks like the 4th position Shadow Shaman. Ling Tosite Segure over on what looks like the offlane Brewmaster. We've got Mladja, I do apologize if I'm mispronouncing this, over on the 2 position Invoker. Actually, going to the mid lane, Kotji over on the Slark. And it looks like it's going to be an aggressive tri-lane, so we're going to have Slark over in the solo safe lane, and ESPX over on the Skywrath Mage. So he's going to be a 5 position. We've already got a 5-man rotation happening on the top lane to be that aggressively ward. We've got a sentry being used to be able to block that pull camp, as well as a very unconventional safety ward. So the rationale behind this is prevent it from being dewarded, since the usual safety ward placements around here, there, or there. And so a lot of support players will like to place the sentry ward there to be able to catch them out. If you're able to deward that sentry ward, very difficult to recover. We've got a very greedy pub safety ward coming out. Actually, if they place it slightly further there, they'll at least see Rune Vision as well. So a slight misplay perhaps coming out. The reason why you usually don't want to place this ward is because it gives vision both of the rune as well as being a safety ward at the same time. It's an obvious place to be dewarded. And when you're playing an aggressive try like this, you usually want to place a ward here, so you can provide a vision of any TP supports coming in, so you know when they're backing off and when the supports are pulling, so you can play a lot more aggressively then. If they do clash try, because they have to deal with the living armor, it's going to be difficult for them to be able to find these kills. But that being said, Clinkz at level 1 probably want to be going for Searing Arrow, since his attack point so high, 0.7, that's difficult for him to really be able to CS effectively without it, especially with his low base damage as well. And we've already got Firetoad and ESPX waiting in the wings, so assuming that Tosai Segure is left on the zone, and that could potentially work out to their advantage. Tosai Segure continuing to CS. He actually went for Clap at 1 and going over Lunar Blessing. Lunar Blessing is immediately going to pop, so First Blood immediately going in the hands of NV. Great plays coming up from them. The supports both hiding in here, giving no vision away. And so they're not too sure where the supports were. They could, maybe one of them thinking they'd be going mid. And it looks like Mladja over in the mid lane. He's actually doing very well, all things considered. Usually Quas Exile Invoker doesn't start to come online to a few levels in. But that being said, God's Gift, he's been prioritizing on lust, it's more than denies. And if he isn't able to shut down the Invoker now, it's going to be very difficult. Once the second point in Exile comes up, you now out DPS the Death Prophet. And while I say that, Brewmaster gets another kill over in the Vengeful Spirit, as now he's got the Drunken Brawler and Boots. So the aggression coming out from the Brewmaster works fantastically if you play Aggro, because you've got the clap, you've got the concussive shot to set up for the clap, and then the shackle on top of that. And clap does an absolutely obscene amount of damage. It's not only the fact that it does damage, the fact that it also provides that snare. And now we've got support rotation coming in, so ESPX as well as Firetoad rotating to the mid lane. Clarity's both popped on them. Sentry ward being placed out to be the D ward, the ward being placed there in case they're able to spot it out while they're rotating. It's a good recognition coming out from the support players, smoking and then placing wards while they're doing so. A lot of support players, when they rotate with smoke, they don't make efficient use of it. When you always want to place wards behind you, or to do something with the smoke other than going for that pick-off kill in case the pick-off fails. So Death Prophet, actually out of mana for Equip Storm, so if they decide to dive this right now, they might be able to bring it down. That being said, with the low armor, Concussive Shot flies, we've got the Ether Shock first, Jackal now being used, as well as the Arc Bolt, and that should be enough to be able to bring them down. Now actually, Living Armor keeping it alive for a lot longer. ESPX finally does get the last hit, and looks like Mladja is able to take it. And he's opted for a Forge Spirit very early on. Looks like that Forge Spirit did die, so he was using that to find some CS, or perhaps to be able to control the runes. So that is the advantage of the Quas Exile Invoker over the Quas Wex, is you've got a guaranteed way to be able to control the runes. I suppose Quas Wex you can try to control with the Tornado, but it's a lot easier simply to place a Forward Spirit up so you can deny it in case you're not able to get to in time. And Brewmaster with level 3, they can leave him alone for now because they know that's difficult for them to bring him down. Now he's got 2 points up on Clap and that point in the Brawler. With the Brawler rework, absolutely a phenomenal ability to provide your lower lane control, especially 1v1. Kochi playing very aggressive because he's got that point over in the Essence Shift, and Dogfish has to be very careful. He's got the Time Walk and the Living Arm to keep him safe, but he loses a fair amount of stats, and Kochi might even, yeah, there we go, he's actually opted for 2 points of the Essence Shift. You do this when you're 1v1, and actually could go for a kill right now on Dogfish, if he decides to commit for it. The reason why you go for 2 points in the Essence Shift is because it lasts for so much longer. You're able to use it to be able to completely zone them out of range, and so Dogfish, he has to play very passively. While Faceless Void usually has a very powerful 1v1 matchup due to his high base damage and with that time lock, it's difficult against the Slark with 2 points in Essence Shift. Because if you decide to trade hits with him, you're not going to be having a good time. If you're not able to out-CS the Slark, or if you're not even able to go anywhere near the Slark because he's got that higher base damage with the Essence Shift and with that Quelling Blade, it's difficult for Faceless Void to recover. Since at the moment his supports, they're forced to sit over in the bot lane and safeguard their carry. Lunar Blessing, despite taking their first blood, he's their saving grace. If he's able to find that Orchid very early on, they can start making a lot of plays. And so Envy, good recognition coming up from them. They're shutting down the Clinkz before she becomes a relevant threat. Risky gets called out with the Arcane Bolt, as well as the Ancient Seal. Tosai Sigil comes in, Shackle flies, and Tosai Sigil's more than happy to tank the tower with that Brawler crit. And he actually brings down Lunar Blessing with one right click with that Brawler being guaranteed. So it looks like he opted for a very early point over in the Haze, and the reason why he did this is because he's picked up the Arcane Boots. Brewmaster's biggest weakness is his lack of mana pool. His abilities are outright broken on other heroes, so the only way to control them is by giving Brewmaster such a low mana pool that he's not able to spam them out. Dark Ox eats an Arcane Bolt from him from ESPX. They're playing very aggressively. The ESPX is actually out of mana. He could be taking a fall right now. Lunar Blessing, if he wants to play very aggressively, could go for this. But Fire Toad's there to be fighting covering fire. He's got the Hex and the Shackle waiting in the wings. Toad's signature runs forward. Dark Ox actually goes on Lunar Blessing. He's caught out the Shackle. One more right, over to bring them. Sunstrike actually flies. Unfortunately, doesn't land over on Dark Ox. But Tosai Sigil smacks him down. He doesn't really give a damn at the tower with that point up in the Drunken Brawler. Brewmaster tanking enough that he can afford to take a few hits because he has to be the one taking those tower hits. If his support's taking them, they're in for a bad time with that low base armor. And over in their mid lane matchup, looks like Mladja actually out-CSing God's Gift. And so we're talking about this matchup of Invoker usually not going into the mid lane in competitive games because of how greedy he is and how difficult it is for him to really control the lane at level 1 and level 2. But if you're exceptionally skilled with that Invoker, and if your team's really confident with your Invoker ability, you can still do that 1v1 matchup. If you go across Exalt, it definitely is doable. It's just not ideal in case he happens to get shut down, because Invoker, you never want to play him from behind. He's essentially a semi-carry. You need an obscene amount of golden experience for him to really start to become effective. You want him to get experience first of all, and then you want him to find gold as well so he can provide that utility, because he's going to be the one picking up the utility item for his team. Going across Exalt, most likely going to be going for the Zoo build, and so probably going to be going Hand of Midas. Actually, it looks like he's going for Mech, and so Mech into Drums of Endurance perhaps could be the build order, and so the rationale behind this is you always want to draft a Mech carrier, and if you don't draft a Mech carrier, then your mid player is usually going to be the one that has to suck it up, because otherwise, your Slark, he wants his Blink Dagger ASAP, so does Tosai Sigil. While I say that, Lunar Blessing left alone, and so the support rotation coming out from Road to 3k MMR, not quite working out. Lunar Blessing pops the Ghost Walk, eats the Sunstrike, but he's already called out. There's sentries being placed very aggressively, and Tosai Sigil 5-0 for 2. They haven't been able to control the Brewmaster. This is the power of the Brewmaster. For the first 35 minutes, he completely stomps every single fight. He makes it very difficult for you to recover, especially if you clash try because they opted for such an unconventional support duo. You've got the Vengeful Spirit and well as with Treant Protector. I haven't really been talking about support duo. The weakness with this is you have to have Treant Protector initiate with the Leech Seed to set up for the Vengeful Spirit. They could go on the Kochi, but Kochi, he actually doesn't have any points in Dark Pack, but he immediately backs himself off. Going to be opting for that point in Dark Pack now, actually opting for more points in Essence Shift. Would have liked to see at least 1 point in that Dark Pack to ensure that he's got the guaranteed escape maker. He does have that showdown, so maybe he's just relying on that. The rationale behind going for all these points in the Essence Shift is Dogfish is having an incredibly difficult lane. He can't do anything left alone against the Slark. He just keeps stabbing him, draining his stats, gets enough base damage that he's able to out-CS him. So similar to a Razor, how Razor wins the lane by relying on the damage leech coming out from the static link. Kochi can do the exact same thing. And Dark Ox, he's sitting there, but he can't do anything on his own. There's the Tosai Sigil comes in with the blade, catches up 2 with the clap. Dark Ox should be taking a fall. Kochi is taking out very nicely, but he's got that showdown, so he's able to stay alive. God's Gift does pop his the Exorcism, but then the Split flies, and Exorcism is going to be wasted. He takes the fall. You never want to waste Exorcism because you're giving them a 110-second timing window. Risky, he's taking a fair amount of damage. Cyclone up. He's going to get purged off. There comes the Boulder Toss, and he should be taking a fall as well. Tosai Sigil has the clap available when he comes back in. So there we go. Immediately just pops a clap and smacks him down. Brewmaster, he's like a European colonizer, or like the stereotype of the Irishman. You get drunk, you beat on people, and you give people the clap. That's just all objective in the game. And I guess later on you start to multiply by splitting 3 and Mladja. Doing what Cross Exalt Invoker does best when he's left alone, similar to a Dragon Knight or the Death Prophet, you simply push. You pop the Forward Spirits, you start smacking away the Creep Wave. He could actually use the Buckler to provide extra armor for his creeps, and it looks like he actually opted for bringing Basilius, and so he knew that the Death Prophet would have to rotate before he would, since Invoker, he doesn't really gank. Of course, Exile Invoker could just sit in the mid lane, he can contribute to ganks by throwing out that Sunstrike. He doesn't actually have to do anything as far as setting up ganks is concerned, simply because he's got the lockdown coming up from Fire Toe as well as that clap, so all he has to do is drop Sunstrikes, and he's good to go. So he's just going to sit mid for as long as possible, until the enemy team are forced to deal with him. That's the advantage of the Cross Exile Invoker, because they weren't able to shut down Ledger. It's very difficult for them to now go. If they do go for a support rotation, he can actually stand his ground and turn. He's got that Chaos Meter, which you can invoke to, probably opting for a value point in Wex to give him access to that Deafening Blast, and then Mech is now online. And so Ledger can actually stand his ground, right click them down. Cross Exile Invoker hurts like an absolute truck, especially with the double Forge Spirit coming online very soon. Of course, the weakness of Invoker, the reason why you don't see him mid as often now is the fact that Cold Snap, and now does a hell of a lot less damage. He used to deal 30 damage at level 1, so it was absolutely ridiculous with lane control, because you could use it to just throw a few cheeky right clicks, control the lane quite effectively. That's the reason why you used to see Cross Wex Invoker. But Dogfish, waiting in the wings, he wanted to set up that Chronosphere, but he is spotted out. And Toast Segil goes him on God's Gift. God's Gift, unfortunately, he's going to get a dose of the clap. Sunstrike flies, he is able to get a fantastic 2-man Chronosphere. God's Gift just barely alive, but Magic comes and whacks him down. Fire Toe could be taken for action, then Ryan stands his ground, turns Dogfish into a chicken. Dogfish might be smacking another Mech flies, and Ledger and Toast Segil able to bring down Treant Protect. So Dark Hawk's not having a very good game. Dogfish, he does have Time Walk available, he's only got 1 point up in it. So he's opting for that max out Time Walk build, even though he's playing from behind. And now with that Time Walk on cooldown, he's taken full. Shackle flies from Fire Toe, getting his revenge. And Ledger, looks like Toast Segil, just crits him down. So critting like Jackie Chan, he's got the moves like Jagger. And he's actually very close towards his Aghanim Scepter this early on. He's going to be getting something like a 16-minute Aghanim Scepter, even 14 minutes if they're able to take a lot more towers. And Kochi, they've left him completely alone. He's got maxed out Essence Shift. Usually on Slark, you want to max out Dark Pact after you max out Pounce. You want to max out Pounce ASAP because it gives you the highest amount of mobility and gives you the highest killing power, so you've got that guaranteed leash. Then you want to max out the Dark Pact to provide that AoE damage. It also provides you a comeback farming mechanism at absolute worst. The reason why Slark is so powerful as a carry hero, or as a core hero, is he deals the same amount of burst damage as Luna. 540 burst damage, just off the back of Dark Pact, as well as Pounce when they're maxed out. And so if you're able to find a lot of levels on them early on, and you get a Blink Dagger, you Blink Initiate on the hero with that Dark Pact already popped, Pounce, 540 damage over on the Vengeful Spirit, a few right clicks and she dies just like that. And so Kochi looks like he's actually going to be going for what looks like a Yasha. And so no Blink Dagger up yet. You usually see something like Treads Drum into Blink, or even Tread straight into Blink. You used to see Shadowblade picked up on Slark back when Shadowblade, the cooldown wasn't as long as it is now. Because Shadowblade used to actually be a little bit broken in the sense that it was the most cost-efficient DPS item you could buy in terms of gold for damage. But Kochi, now he's actually got enough to farm up the Yasha and actually still go towards the Blink if he really wants to. He's actually picking out Tosa Seguro, he's stealing his CS. He dropped his Arcane Boots to get Arcaned up by Fire Toe. It's a good recognition coming out from him. A lot of efficiency plays coming out from NV, and that's 16-0. And so the game is very decisively in their favor, especially with the Death Ball lineup that they have. They do have the late game assurance of the Pandarean Brewmaster. Slark isn't necessarily the greatest late game carry, he's a snowball dependent carry, but because he's 3-for-0 and because they've left him completely alone, he's actually leading the CS scoreboards in terms of net worth as well. All 5 of NV have the net worth advantage, and this is all coming in from towers. So the reason why Death Ball works is when you take these early towers, they're not necessarily your core heroes that get the gold that's important, it's the fact that your support heroes are able to find the kingdom of fun. And we are going to be seeing a Shadowblade, so a very old school pickup, but Risky is going to get burned down by that Sunstrike. The rationale behind it is it gives you a lot more pick-off power if you're on your own. Dark Ox gets eaten by the Mystic Fly as well as the Boulder Toss, there's a synergy coming up from those two. Cyclone being used over in Dogfish. Dogfish turns into a chicken, Shackle's going to fly as well, prevent it from using that Chronosphere, Ancient Seal. So the Shoot Staffel Seal coming out from EXPX, and they get 2 kills off the back of that Primal Split. And while that's happening, Ledger, typical Magic contribution to this fight, sits there, whacks a tower, drops a Sunstrike, and says, alright, I've done my job, what are you guys up to? Luna Blessing, doing the only thing Clinkz can do at this point. It looks like Courier actually has died 3 times.
The Radiant's innocent courier has
Not too sure what's happening there, if that was potentially a bug, or if the team actually has bought out 3 Couriers, so he actually looks like we could be seeing some throws coming out from Road to 3K. And Dark Horse getting a Sunstrike to the face. Toast Secure wants to go for that last click. But the Forge Spirit actually takes it from him, so good micro coming up from Ledger. Gotta get that GPM going. ESPX with that massive wall drops. Looks like they're just throwing now, so they're just feeding away couriers. That's gonna be the first of the racks going in favor. So 12 minutes in, the Death Ball is online. They've reached the point of critical mass. 20,000 gold lead, 20,000 experience, gold lead, sorry, 11,000 experience leads. Tosai Segure, Aghanim Scepter up 12 minutes in. This is usually the timing you see Aghanim Scepter blink up on the Brewmaster in the standard game. Goes over God's Gift called out by a fantastic long range pounce. Takes the fall, Chronosphere does fly over on Kochi, but Kochi's the wrong target to go for, and the Mystic Fly flies. Process securely, just pops the clap. Dodgefish takes a full contra, he's got that Sheridan, so he doesn't have to give a damn. And 12 minutes and 25 seconds in, you got your first GG of the Aspect of Gaming Dota 2 Community Crackdown 2. As Plantronics and V able to take a very convincing game number 1. And since this is a best of 1 series, Road to 3K MMR are knocked down into the loser bracket, so we're going to be taking a quick break. And we'll be right back for the next game.